How do you go out onto the sea ice after a 1,300-pound polar bear, with no engine, no shelter, and no second chance? I went out with a dog team to find out. What the hunters showed me was nothing like the hunt I had pictured. It works. It has worked for a very long time, and the bear they were watching for, the entire time we were out there, turned out not to be the big one at all. We left before the light came, not before sunrise exactly. In April this far north, the sun does not so much rise as leak into the sky, gray and slow, like somebody turning up a dimmer switch in the next room. Kovic checked the Komutik one last time. That is the sled. Long, low, and lashed together with rope instead of nails, so that it flexes over broken ice instead of snapping on it. Everything we would need for 4 days was tied to it. Everything we would need if things went badly was tied to it as well. 14 dogs, I had expected them to bark. They did not. They stood in the traces, steaming in the cold, watching Kovic, waiting. I was cold in a way I did not yet have the words for. -31 Celsius, and the wind was doing most of the work. An hour out, Kovic stopped the team. There was a track in the snow ahead of us, and I could see it from where I was standing, and it was enormous. A print wider than my 2 hands laid side by side, sunk deep, pressed clean. I will admit, quite pleased with myself for spotting it. Kovic looked at that track for about 2 seconds. Then he walked straight past it, went another 20 yards on, crouched down, and spent the next 5 minutes staring at something I could not see at all. Stage 1, the track. When I finally caught up and knelt beside him, I still could not see it. He had to put his mitt down flat on the snow and trace the edge with one finger before the shape came apart from the ground and became a print. It was small, maybe half the width of the one I had found. The edges were soft and rounded over, and there was a fine dusting of snow sitting inside it. 2 days, Kovic said, maybe 3. He pointed back at my enormous track. That one is this morning. So I asked the obvious question. Why are we looking at the old small one instead of the fresh big one? He did not answer that, not yet. What he said instead was that the big one was a male, and that he was traveling straight, and that a bear traveling straight is a bear that is going somewhere he has already decided to go. Nanook the bear. You hear the word constantly out there, and never once did I hear it said carelessly. Then Kovic showed me the third thing in the snow, which I had also walked over without noticing. 2 more sets of prints, much smaller, tucked in alongside a medium one. A female with 2 cubs. And that one, he said, we do not touch. Not this year, not any year. A female with a cub, a yearling, or a 2-year-old is a family group, and a family group is protected under Inuit law. You do not take her. You do not take them. You do not go near the den. Finding a bear, it turned out, was going to be the easy part. Knowing which bear you were allowed to take, and which bear was allowed to take you, was the next thing I had to learn. Stage 2, the read. Here is the part I had wrong, and I had it very badly wrong. I had assumed the danger in this was the big male. 1,300 pounds is not a number I could make sense of standing on flat ice with nothing else around to compare it to. For reference, the largest polar bear ever recorded was shot at Kotzebue Sound in Alaska in 1960 and weighed 2,209 pounds. A big adult male today runs somewhere between 600 and 1,200. So 1,300 is a genuinely large animal, not a record. Not a myth either. But Kovic was not worried about him. Big one is eating, he said. He is fat, he wants a seal. Then he tipped his chin at the old, small, 2-day-old track. Thin one is looking. And the biology backs him completely. Polar bears are the one bear on this continent that will hunt a person as food rather than out of fear. Grizzlies mostly attack because they are startled or defending something. A polar bear may simply decide that a person is meat and begin the process. But it is rare, genuinely rare. One review counted 73 attacks on people across the entire Arctic between 1870 and 2014, not per year, in total. Statistically, the drive to the airport to get up there was the dangerous part of my week. And when researchers looked at who was doing the attacking, the pattern was not what anyone expects. It was not the huge dominant males. Nearly 2/3 of the attacks came from young bears, subadults, thin ones, animals that were starting to starve. The fat bear wants a seal. The hungry young one will take whatever is walking past. So the hunt has two jobs running at the same time, and they point in opposite directions. You are looking for a large male because that is what the tag is for. And you are watching your back for a small one because that is what watches yours. We camped that night behind a wall of snow blocks Arput cut in about 20 minutes, and I lay there listening to the dogs shift and resettle in the dark, and thinking about the difference between an animal that is full and an animal that is not. The tag matters, by the way. This is not a free-for-all. Nonavut sets a total allowable harvest for each polar bear population, calculated from both scientific survey data and Inuit Cowe Mayatu Kangat, the traditional knowledge held by the hunters themselves. Recent territory-wide figures have sat around 497 bears. Every bear taken comes off that number. Every bear killed in defense of life or property comes off it too. No tag, no hunt. I asked Kovic what happens if a bear comes at camp and there is no tag left. He said you still shoot. Then you report it and your community's number goes down by one next season. Before I show you what the dogs did, and I promise you the dogs are the whole story here, if you want to come along on the next one, subscribe. Right, back onto the ice. Stage 3, the dogs. We found him late on the second day. He was maybe 400 yards out, moving left to right across an old pressure ridge, and he did not look like an animal at first. He looked like a piece of the landscape that was going the wrong way. Kovic did not shout. He did not speed up. He stopped the team, walked down the line, and began to unclip dogs. Not all of them, one then another, then a third. This is the piece of the hunt that has not changed in 1,000 years, and it is the piece I understood the least going in. The KIM meat, the dogs, are not there to pull the sled to the bear. They are there to stop the bear from being able to leave. A polar bear will outrun a person without effort. Over a short distance, he will run about 25 miles an hour. I will not. But he cannot outrun 3 dogs that are loose and fresh and have decided this is the best day of their lives. So the dogs go and the bear runs and the dogs stay with him, and eventually he does the thing they are asking him to do. He stops. He turns around. He puts his back to something and faces them. That is called baying, and it is the entire point. A bear that is running is a bear nobody can safely approach. A bear that has stopped to deal with 3 dogs is a bear that is no longer thinking about the people. The dogs circle. They dart in, they dart back out. They are not trying to fight him, and if one of them makes a mistake, that dog dies. Everybody out there knows this. Kovic told me later he has lost 2 dogs this way in 18 years, and he said it the way you would talk about a friend. And the dogs are not interchangeable. Kovic runs 14, and only about 5 of them are bear dogs. The rest pull. He picks the bear dogs young, watches which pups go toward a strange noise instead of away from it, and then spends years on them. He told me the best one he ever had was a female who would not close on a bear at all. She just stayed exactly far enough out that the bear could never turn its back on her, and she did that for as long as it took, and every other dog took its cue from where she was standing. That is the part I keep thinking about. The thing holding a 1,300-pound animal in place was not strength, and it was not the rifle. It was 5 dogs who had been taught, over years, precisely how close was close enough. And Kovic, meanwhile, was off the sled and moving, and I was supposed to be behind him. I was not behind him. I was well behind him. going down on one knee in soft snow for the second time, with a camera bag swinging around and my breath coming out in short, useless bursts. Arput, who is 22 and thought this was hilarious, jogged past me and did not comment, which was somehow worse. Stage 4, the take. I am not going to spend long here, because they did not. Kovic closed the distance on foot, got himself set, waited until he was certain of the angle and took the shot. It was one shot. The bear went down and stayed down, and it was over in less time than it takes to describe. The dogs were called off immediately. Nobody cheered. Nobody photographed it. Arput went and got the sled. And then Kovic did something I did not expect. He stood over the animal for a moment and put his hand flat on the fur behind its shoulder and said something quietly that was not for me. Then he took his knife out and the work started. Stage 5. The share. Here is what actually happens to 1,300 pounds of polar bear, and it is the part nobody films. Almost all of it goes back with you. The hide comes off first and it takes 2 men a long time, because it is worth real money and real warmth, and because a hide that gets cut in the wrong place is worth much less. The meat is quartered on the ice and loaded onto the kamutik. Some of it, the working parts, the parts that will not travel, goes straight to the dogs, who have earned it more than anyone. And one organ gets carried well away from camp and left where nothing will find it. The liver. Polar bear liver is genuinely poisonous to human beings. The bear eats seal. Seal is extremely high in vitamin A, and the bear's liver concentrates it to a level that a human body cannot process or get rid of. Enough vitamin A accumulates in a single polar bear liver to kill several dozen people. It has killed Arctic explorers who did not know. It will kill a dog too. The Inuit have known not to eat it for as long as anyone can trace, and no one out there needed a chemistry lesson to explain why. The rest went home, not to Kovic's house, to the community. Meat from a hunt like that gets distributed, elders first, and the family who took the bear does not keep the largest share. Arnak had a pot going before the sled was fully unloaded. I ate polar bear in a warm kitchen with the wind still going outside, and I will tell you honestly that it is dense and strong, and not something I would want every day, and that it was the best meal I have ever been given. 4 days, 14 dogs, 1 bear, 1 tag gone from a number that a whole community shares. What I keep coming back to is not the size of the animal. It is that Kovic spent almost none of that trip looking at the big one. He read the small track. He read the old one. He read the family group and steered us wide around it. The skill was never really in the shot at the end. The skill was in knowing, 400 yards out and 2 days late, exactly which animal was in front of him and which one might be behind him. What is the coldest you have ever been, and what were you doing at the time? I read every single one. Next time, we go out for something that weighs 4 times more than this bear did, and the ice we do it on is thinner than anybody would like. Thank you for coming out onto the ice with me, and out there nothing is wasted, not the animal, not the daylight, not what the old people knew.